There were many, many healings that took place last week. I want to share one of them with you because it really tells a very wonderful story. The healing was by a woman who actually lives in the Portland area. Her name is Tammy Ann Alloway. Tammy Ann had been diagnosed by 5 different doctors that she needed a hip replacement in both her hips. She needed both her hips replaced. And she was in terrible pain. Very, very difficult for her to walk. And after the healing show last Sunday, when the show was over, Tammy Ann got up and walked around her apartment, her house that she lives in, and the pain was still there. She hadn't been healed. And she went to bed that night disappointed. And she woke up the next morning, and Tammy Ann had 100% healing. She was totally healed. And she wrote me a letter that just a couple of days ago, an email. She said, Nick, it's been 3 days now since my healing show, and my leg continues to even get better and better every day. And she went on to say that I just had 2 very physical days at work, more so than usual. And my leg is pain-free. A miracle from God. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Sara. Yes, the miracles are real. Shine on, Tammy Ann. Now, the reason I wanted to share that, Sara, is because some of the healings that people have are instantaneous. Some of you have already received the healings while Sara and I have been talking. But some of the healings, the body begins a healing, and it might take a day or so, or 2 days before you actually realize that you've had a healing. I once had the experience of somebody that had a numbness of the feet. It begins with a neuro type of sickness in his feet where they were numb, and I prayed for him and God healed him, but it kept getting better a little day after day after day, and it actually took about a week to have a total healing. So it's important you realize that some of you will have healings that are instantaneous. Some of you have healings that will happen. Your body will begin, but it might take 1 day or 2 days to actually experience the entire healing. And some of you might have healings that you're not even going to know until you go back to the doctors and be examined again. Also, I want to tell you another story of a person that had a healing from Sara. And even though she gave us permission to use her name, I'm not going to because I think it's a little personal. This woman had a ruptured ACL in her knee, and she was told she needed an operation. She ruptured it while she was playing tennis. She was a very active person. And Sara prayed for her at one of the services, and she didn't get healed. Rather than have the operation, she thought she would go back again to the next healing service Sara had a month later. And again, Sara prayed for her, and she didn't have a healing. Then Sara had a talk with her, and Sara asked her, said, what is the most important thing to you in your terms of priorities? And she said, well, be very candid with you. My priorities probably is what people think of me. I think it's very, very important, the image I have to other people. She said, Sara asked her, is it possible that this priority about how people feeling about you is taking priority over surrendering to God and letting God heal you? And the woman realized that Sara's question, and the answer was yes, that is correct. And she did surrender herself to God. And the 3rd time that she received a healing at Sara's service, she received that God did heal her, and she didn't have to have the knee operation. I was talking to a friend on the phone a couple of days ago from California, and one of the things he said to me, he said, Nick, he said, my back's bothering me. He said, I have a bad back. He said, but I can live with it. It's not that bad. And I know there's people out there who have worse problems than I have, so I'm not asking God for healing. And I said to him, do you think God has a quota? Do you think God told Sara and I before we went and started our show today that I want you to know that my quota today is 48 healings? That's all you're going to have, and after 48 you're cut off? God doesn't have a quota. It doesn't make a difference if what you have need of healing is something that's extraordinary, such as severe cancer, or whether it's something as minor as a sprained wrist. God does not have a quota. Every one of you are capable of receiving a healing.